It's All About the Time, Book 2 by Pip Potato. Please subscribe. Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, would you look at that sky writing? It says hour with a short arrow underneath, and the word minute has a long arrow underneath it. The plane also has a clock dangling below." Ha, that's funny. Snotto said, "What could that mean, Booger? Hey, humans, do you know what the arrows and the clock have in common?" Booger said, "I've got it, Snotto. The hour hand on the clock is the shorter one, and the minute hand is the longer one." Snotto said, "Also, Booger, the word hour only has 4 letters, whereas the word minute has 6 letters. Therefore, minute is the longer word and has the longest hand." Got it, got it, got it. Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, do you know there is 5 minutes duration between each number? There is 60 minutes in 1 hour. Do you know it's like skip counting by 5? Snotto said, Booger, so it is. Hey, humans, you try skip counting by 5, starting at the 12 and ending at the 12. Hopefully you get to 60 minutes. What is the time on the clock? Booger said, "Okay, humans, the time on the clock is 10 minutes past 10 o'clock. Ooh, time for morning tea." Snotto said, "Yes, Booger, it is past, because the long minute hand has gone past the 12 o'clock." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, the clock's hands turn around from the 12 to the right, just like how I draw a circle. Humans call this clockwise." I tried my best to do a circle. Snotto said, "Hey, humans, can you see how Booger only drew his arrow to the bottom middle where the 6 is? From the 12 to the 6, the time is always something past the o'clock. Try drawing circles in the air, starting at the o'clock. You will notice your finger moving towards the right." Booger said, "Hey, look, humans, the time still says 10 minutes past 10 o'clock on this analog clock. Don't forget to skip count by 5s, past the 12, 5, 10. Snotto said, "Hey, humans, I've drawn a digital clock on my chalkboard. It still says 10 minutes past 10 o'clock. Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, you know how I remember which number goes in first on the digital clock? I think of which letter comes first in the alphabet, H for hour or M for minute." Snotto says, "We all know H comes before M, hour, then minute, hour, then minute. Easy to remember, Booger." Booger said, "Okay, humans, I've rubbed out the clock's hands and drawn purple hands on this analog clock. What time does it say?" Snotto said, "Hey, humans, don't forget to skip count by fives. Also, it's going to be past something o'clock, as the minute hand is between the 12 and 6 on the right side of the clock." Booger said, "The time is 20 minutes past 8 o'clock." Snotto said, "Did you skip count by five?" "I also wrote it on my digital clock." Booger said, "Okay, humans, here's a tricky one for you. What time is this? Look very carefully." Snotto said, "Remember to skip count by five, starting at the 12." Booger said, "This was a tricky one for the human, Snotto. The time is 27 minutes past 8 o'clock. Don't forget to move your finger to the right as if you're drawing a circle. Which was the last number your finger went past until you got to the hour hand?" Snotto said, "Here's my magnificent drawing of the digital clock." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, I'm just reminding the humans with my drawing on this massive blackboard that the hour hand is short and the minute hand is long." Snotto said, "Awesome job, Booger. Everyone needs to be reminded." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, I also need to remind the humans that on the digital clock, you write the hour first, as the H hour comes before the M in minute in the alphabet." Snotto said, "Don't worry, Booger. I've drawn it on my massive blackboard." Booger said, "Okay, Snotto, let's get the humans to do this one by themselves without any clues." Snotto said, "You can do this, humans. We believe in you just like your teachers believe in you." Booger said, "Here's another one, humans." Snotto said, "Take your time and think about it." Booger said, "Okay, my lovely humans." On the blackboard is Snotto's drawing of a circle. Remember to draw a circle. You start at the top and move your finger to the right or clockwise. Look at the arrow though. It's on the left side, starting at the 6 and moving to the 12. The time on the clock will always be something to the o'clock, between the 12 and 6 on the left side. This clock says 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. Snotto said, "Now, this is a bit tricky, Booger. Even though the time says 10 minutes to 7 o'clock on the analogue clock, the digital clock still needs to say how many minutes have passed the hour hand, however, still being 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. We skip count from the 12 to the minute hand on the 10. Then we need to see what number the hour hand has just passed. Ta-da! That says 6:50 in digital time, or 10 minutes to 7 on the analogue clock. Booger said, "Hey, Snotty Poo, this is a tricky one for humans to remember, but they can. They can do anything. Okay, humans, close your eyes when I say go and say this 5 times, visualizing a digital clock. Digital time is always minutes past the hour. Go." Booker said, "Okay, humans, you need to remember when the hands are on the left side of the clock between the 6 and 12, the time is always something to the o'clock. Also, you need to remember the digital clock is always past for the hour hand and minute hand." Snotto said, "Hey humans, don't forget to skip count by 5. What is the time?" Booger said, "Hey Snotto, the time is 13 minutes to 11 o'clock. Snotto said, "Hey humans, did you move your finger to make a circle? Look at the short hour hand. What number is it going to?" Look at my almost perfect circle. Remember, from the 12 to the 6 on the right, the time will always be something past the o'clock. When the hands are on the left of the 6 to the 12, the time will always be something to the o'clock, said Booger. Snotto said, "Okay, now humans, stare at the picture, then close your eyes. Try to memorize it." Booger said, "Okay, humans, can you work out this time?" Snotto said, "Hey, Booger, we need to remind them that the hand's on the left side of the clock, where the time becomes something to the o'clock." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, if the human said 17 minutes to 8 o'clock or 7:43, the humans would have been right." Snotto said, "Remember, humans, these hands are heading to the o'clock or the number 12. Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, do you know 15 minutes past 1 o'clock is also 1:15?" Snotto said, "Hey, humans, so you can remember what Booger said. Close your eyes, visualize the minute hand onto the number 3 and say 5 times. 15 minutes past is also 1:15." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, do you know 15 minutes to 11 o'clock is also 11:15?" Snotto said, "Hey, humans, so you can remember what Booger said. Close your eyes, visualize the minute hand on the number 9 and say 5 times. 15 minutes to is also 1:15." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, do you also know when the minute hand is on the 6, it is always half past something?" Snotto said, "Hey, humans, guess what time it is now on the clock? Remember, pretend you're drawing a circle starting at the 12 or o'clock. This is going clockwise. Check out what number the short hour hand has just gone past." Booger said, "Hey, Snotto, guess how I determine AM, the beginning of the day, and PM, the end of the day?" Snotto said, "Okay, Booger, I know this one. Well. The letter A in AM is at the beginning of the alphabet, so of course it's the beginning of the day. The letter P for PM is towards the end of the alphabet, so of course PM is towards the end of the day." The end. Finished. Goodbye.